We hear torture, we hear enhanced interrogations. We have no idea what that means.
Right.
I could just imagine, what is it, like pulling the fingernails that you see on TV? What is the torture? What is
It's
the enhanced
it's
interrogations?
in most cases it's not so crude. So there are enhanced interrogation techniques, and then there's all the other shit that they did that they didn't have approval for, that they just figured we're going to do it and nobody's going to do anything about it. So enhanced interrogation techniques, as they were approved by the Justice Department, were mostly not something that I would call torture. Like if I grab you by the shirt and I say, "Damn you, answer my questions," that's not torture. If the next most serious one was called the belly slap, right? It makes a cracking sound, makes a handprint, a little bit humiliating. That's not torture.
But are you like naked, chained up?
Not yet. That comes.
Keyword, yeah.
Yeah. A smack across the face, that's not very nice. But it's probably not torture. But then you get into things like strip the guy naked, chain him to an eye bolt in the ceiling, and make it so he can't kneel or sit or lay or get comfortable in any way. Chill the cell to 50 degrees Fahrenheit and then throw a bucket of ice water on him every hour. We murdered prisoners with that technique. It's called the cold cell. Sleep deprivation is another one. Don Rumsfeld was the Secretary of Defense at the time, and he famously said that he didn't believe that there was such a thing called sleep deprivation, because he said, "Look at me. I have a stand-up desk in my office. I don't even have a chair. And I'll stand there and work for 24 hours, sometimes longer than 24 hours. That's not what we were talking about. What we're talking about is being stripped naked and chained to that eye bolt so you can't get comfortable, knowing that the American Psychological Association has done studies showing that people begin to lose their minds at day 7 with no sleep. They begin to die from organ failure at day 9, but the CIA was authorized to keep patients to keep prisoners awake for up to 12 days. Well, we murdered prisoners doing that. The Justice Department never said we could murder people. They said we could use these techniques, which are not torture. They're enhanced parts of the interrogation. Well, that was just silly. But then there were other things, especially with Abu Zubaydah, things that we did to Abu Zubaydah that were never authorized by anybody. We learned during an interrogation that Abu Zubaydah had an irrational fear of bugs. And so we put him in a coffin with a diaper. We poured a box of cockroaches on him and then closed the coffin and just listened to him scream. We would open the coffin long enough every few days to give him water and food and change his diaper and then seal it back up again. The fuck is that?
Why wouldn't you just talk?
He was talking. He was
So
talking.
these people would talk and still be tortured?
Yes, that was the issue. And listen, I told Abu Zubaydah right after we caught him, I said, "I am the nicest guy that you're going to meet in this experience." I said, "My colleagues, they're not nice like I am. So if you only do one thing, it's that you have to cooperate. You have to answer their questions." And he said, "You seem like a nice man, but you're the enemy, and I'll never cooperate." I said, "Well, suit yourself." Then when the CIA plane came in to take him, he was petrified, crying. 3 FBI agents and I carried his gurney out to the plane. I was carrying the gurney with one hand and holding his hand with the other. He was bawling. And we put him on the plane. We tied him down on the luggage rack at the back of the plane. And I leaned over and I said, "Remember, you have to cooperate." And he smiled at me and I said, "Good luck." And then took off. Well, then he ends up a week later at the secret site. And he was very, very severely wounded during the capture. And so they allowed him 6 weeks to just get his wounds to heal. Well, there was an FBI agent by the name of Ali Soufan, ethnically Egyptian, American FBI agent, fluent in Arabic. Ali began to interrogate him. Now listen, I hate the FBI. I do. But there are no better interrogators in America than the FBI. They've been doing it since the Nuremberg trials in 1945 and 1946. They know exactly what they're doing. And the way they succeed is they establish a rapport with a prisoner, right? You don't rape him or beat him or starve him or electrocute him. You sit across the table from him, and sure, he's got handcuffs on, he's chained to the table, but you offer him a cup of coffee or an orange or a cigarette, or if he's really helping you out, a piece of paper and a pencil to write to his parents. And eventually, sometimes it takes days, weeks, months, who knows, eventually he's going to open up. And Abu Zubaydah really opened up and gave us actionable intelligence that saved American lives. But the CIA, and especially the two CIA contractors, the two psychologists who came up with the program, they wanted to see how it worked. And so George Tenet, the CIA director, went to President Bush on July the 31st of 2002 and said, please turn the prisoner over to us. And Bush, because he didn't know what the frig was going on in the world, did that. And so Ali Soufan was pulled back. In fact, Robert Mueller was the FBI director at the time. He knew exactly what the CIA was going to start doing. And so not only did he pull his people out, he pulled all FBI personnel out of the country that the secret prison was in. He didn't even want his people to be in the same country while the CIA was torturing its prisoners. And so they immediately began torturing Abu Zubaydah on August the 2nd, 2002, and he went silent. So they tortured him for about 6 weeks, and then the FBI came back. He was furious, and it took Ali more than a month to get him talking again. And he's like, why did you guys do that to me? I was telling you everything you wanted to know. And he said, well, that wasn't us. That was these other guys from a different organization. Ali continued to interrogate him for another couple of months, and then the contractors came back. James Mitchell and Bruce Jessen, the two contract psychologists, and just started torturing him even more mercilessly. They waterboarded him 83 times. They actually killed him at one point. His heart stopped beating, and they had to revive him with CPR so they could torture him more. And then after that, he never told us anything.